The text that destroyed my marriage in 30 seconds. My wife thought I was asleep when she sent that text message. She had no idea I was standing right behind her, reading every word over her shoulder. What I saw on that screen didn't just end our marriage. It revealed a conspiracy that had been destroying my life for months. If you're into honest stories about relationships, trust, and betrayal, hit that follow button. You won't want to miss the next one. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday when my entire world collapsed. I'd gotten up to use the bathroom and noticed the glow from her phone lighting up our dark bedroom. Sarah was sitting on the edge of the bed, typing furiously, completely absorbed in whatever conversation she was having. I should have gone back to bed. I should have minded my own business. But something about the way she was hunched over that phone, the secrecy of it all, made me pause in the doorway. The message I read over her shoulder made my blood run cold. He's so pathetic. Keeps trying to plan date nights and romantic dinners like that's going to fix anything. I can barely stand being in the same room as him anymore. Thank God you understand what I really need. My heart stopped. She was texting another man at 3 a.m. while I slept 5 feet away, calling me pathetic for trying to save our marriage. But that wasn't even the worst part. As I watched, frozen in horror, her phone buzzed with a reply. Poor guy has no idea his wife has been with me every Tuesday for the last 6 months. Does he really think those work dinners are real? Sarah actually laughed. She read about my humiliation and laughed. Then she typed back. He's so trusting, it's almost sad. Yesterday he thanked me for working so hard to provide for our future. If only he knew what I was really doing during those long work days. I felt like I was going to be sick. Every Tuesday for 6 months, she'd been telling me she had mandatory work dinners. I'd even helped her pick out outfits, telling her how proud I was of her dedication to her career. She'd been cheating on me with my money, my support, my encouragement. But what happened next changed everything. Instead of confronting her right then, instead of screaming or crying or demanding answers, I did something that would turn me from victim to victor in ways I never could have imagined. I took out my own phone and started recording. For the next 20 minutes, I documented everything. Every text, every laugh, every cruel comment about how clueless I was. She had no idea I was there, no idea that her secret conversation was being recorded in crystal clear detail. The messages got worse. She talked about how she'd been planning to divorce me, but wanted to milk a few more months of me paying for everything. She discussed how she and her lover had been meeting in hotels I'd unknowingly paid for with our joint credit card. She even joked about how I'd recently suggested couples therapy, calling it hilarious that I thought our marriage was worth saving. He actually said he'd do anything to make me happy, she texted. What would make me happy is him disappearing so we don't have to sneak around anymore. But his paycheck is too good to give up just yet. That's when I knew I wasn't just dealing with an affair. I was dealing with a woman who had turned destroying me into entertainment. I quietly went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there planning while she continued texting her lover, just inches away from me. By morning, I had a strategy that would expose not just her affair, but the calculated cruelty behind it. The next day, I acted completely normal. I made her coffee, kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her. She smiled and said she loved me too, then reminded me she had another work dinner that evening. Of course, honey, I said. I'm so proud of how hard you're working for us. She actually looked guilty for half a second. Then she shrugged it off and left for work. That's when I put my plan into motion. First, I called my lawyer. Then I called a private investigator. Then I did something that would turn Sarah's own cruelty into the weapon that destroyed her. I created a group text. The group included her parents, my parents, her sister, her best friends, my best friends, her boss, and several coworkers from her office. Basically, everyone who had been hearing her lies about her dedication to work and my shortcomings as a husband. The message I sent was simple. I need everyone to see something important about Sarah. Please check the attached video. The video I'd recorded the night before showed her phone screen clearly, with timestamps, showing every cruel text, every lie, every heartless comment about our marriage. I'd edited it to protect the identity of her affair partner, not out of kindness, but because I wanted the focus to be entirely on her betrayal. Then I waited. My phone started ringing within minutes. First her mother, crying and apologizing. Then her sister, shocked and furious. Then my own family offering support and expressing their disgust. But the call that mattered most came from her boss. "I need you to know," he said, his voice tight with anger. "There have never been any mandatory work dinners. Sarah requested every Tuesday off 6 months ago, claiming she needed time for marriage counseling. She's been lying to everyone." Marriage counseling. She'd told her boss she was working on our relationship while she was actually destroying it. Within hours, Sarah's entire world knew the truth. Her family was horrified. Her friends were disgusted. Her co-workers were shocked that she'd been using fake work commitments to cover an affair. But I wasn't done yet. Remember, I'd recorded 20 minutes of her conversation. There was more evidence than just the affair. In those texts, she'd also discussed her plan to hide money before divorcing me, her strategy for claiming I was emotionally abusive to get better settlement terms, and her intention to destroy my reputation by telling everyone I was controlling and paranoid. She'd essentially recorded her own confession to conspiracy and fraud. My lawyer was thrilled. "This isn't just evidence of adultery," he said. "This is evidence of premeditated fraud and defamation. She's going to lose everything." When Sarah came home that evening, expecting to find her clueless husband waiting with dinner, she instead found divorce papers on the kitchen table and her belongings packed in suitcases. The look on her face was something I'll never forget. Pure shock, followed by panic, followed by desperate calculation as she tried to figure out how much I knew. "We need to talk," she said, her voice shaking. "No," I replied calmly. "We really don't. Everything I need to say is in those papers. Everything you need to know is in the video I sent to everyone we know." She went white. "What video?" I showed her my phone, playing back her own cruel words from the night before. She watched herself mock me, plan my destruction, and laugh about my pain. When it was over, she looked like she might throw up. "You were recording me? That's illegal." "Actually, it's not. I was in my own bedroom and you were speaking loud enough to be overheard. But even if it was illegal, what you're seeing there is your own confession to fraud, conspiracy, and defamation. I think my illegal recording is the least of your problems." She tried everything: tears, anger, denial, bargaining. She claimed it was just venting and didn't mean anything. She said she was confused and going through something. She promised to end the affair and go to counseling, but the damage was done, not just to our marriage but to her entire life. Her family was so disgusted they cut contact. Her boss fired her for lying about work commitments and using company time for personal matters. Her friends were horrified by the cruelty she'd shown. Even her affair partner wanted nothing to do with her once everything became public. The divorce was swift and brutal. The prenup I'd insisted on years earlier protected my assets, and her recorded confessions ensured she got nothing beyond what the law required. No alimony, no shared property, no sympathy from anyone. But the real justice came 6 months later. Remember how she'd been planning to claim I was emotionally abusive? Well, when you have video evidence of someone planning to make false abuse claims for financial gain, prosecutors tend to take notice. Sarah was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted extortion. The woman who had called me pathetic was arrested at her new apartment, cuffed and led away while her neighbors watched. She served 8 months in county jail and was ordered to pay restitution. Her professional reputation was destroyed, her family relationships were severed, and her social circle had completely abandoned her. The affair partner? Once everything became public, his own wife divorced him and took everything. Turns out Sarah wasn't his first affair, just his most documented one. Meanwhile, my life completely transformed. I started hitting the gym, not out of anger or revenge, but because I finally had time for myself. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected while trying to save my marriage. I threw myself into work and got a promotion I'd been chasing for years. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts again. A year later, I met Jennifer at a coffee shop. She was reading a book I'd recommended to a friend, and we struck up a conversation. When I told her I was recently divorced, she nodded sympathetically. "Bad breakup?" she asked. "She was cheating on me with someone she met online," I said, keeping it simple. "I'm sorry. That must have been devastating." "It was, But it also taught me that sometimes the worst things that happen to you are actually the best things that could happen to you. Jennifer and I have been together for 2 years now. She's never once made me feel pathetic for wanting to plan date nights or romantic dinners. She appreciates effort instead of mocking it. She sees my desire to make her happy as a strength, not a weakness to exploit. Last month, we got engaged. Sarah found out through social media, one of the few platforms that hadn't banned her after her arrest became public. She sent me a long email explaining how she'd learned from her mistakes and grown as a person. She said she was happy I'd found someone, but hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive her. I deleted the email without responding, because forgiveness isn't about forgetting what someone did to you. It's about freeing yourself from the power their actions have over your life. And I'd freed myself the moment I decided to stop being a victim and start being a man who demanded better. Some people might say I went too far, that recording her private conversation was wrong, that destroying her life was excessive. But here's what I learned. When someone is planning to destroy your life, your reputation, and your future based on lies, you don't owe them protection from the consequences of their own cruelty. Sarah spent months planning my humiliation and destruction. She turned our marriage into a joke and me into her personal ATM while she built a relationship with another man. She was going to take my money, my home, and my reputation based on false claims of abuse. All I did was make sure everyone knew who she really was. The text message I read that night wasn't just evidence of an affair. It was a window into the soul of someone who had spent months enjoying my pain. Someone who thought my love made me pathetic instead of lucky. She thought I was asleep, thought she was safe to mock the man who'd been working every day to make her happy. She was wrong. And that 30-second text message that was supposed to amuse her affair partner ended up being the evidence that destroyed her entire life. Sometimes the cruelest people create their own evidence. Sometimes the most devastating betrayals come with timestamps and screenshots. And sometimes the person you're mocking is standing right behind you, recording every word. If you're in a relationship where someone makes you feel pathetic for trying, where your efforts are met with secret mockery instead of appreciation, remember this story. Remember that you deserve someone who sees your love as a gift, not a weakness to exploit. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, remember that sometimes the best thing you can do is simply let people show everyone exactly who they really are. The text that destroyed my marriage in 30 seconds wasn't the one I sent. It was the one she thought I'd never see. What started as her cruel entertainment became the evidence that gave me my life back. And sometimes that's exactly the justice the universe intended. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone. Betrayal is devastating, but it's also clarifying. It shows you exactly what you're worth to someone, and more importantly, it shows you what you should be worth to yourself. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about people who refuse to be victims of their own kindness. Because the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. And sometimes the people who hurt you hand you exactly the tools you need to build a better life without them.